Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Priscilla and we're here to chat one more time. Thank you so much for those who have subscribed. For those who have not subscribed, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, share, like, and yeah, let your sisters, friends, mothers-in-law, everyone come to join us in this new club that we're forming on YouTube. So today I received a lot of love my past few videos, so today I thought I'd just talk about how to prepare for competency interviews. So I know that when you're in Uganda or in many places right now, actually behavior interviews are the thing, so it's no longer so much as technical. The technical bit usually is like a written test, and now sometimes you're also having an oral, which is a competency based interview. So when I did my video about how I manifested my dream job, many of you came and asked me, also, how did you prepare for your interview? How did you, manage to ace the interview? So I thought I would share my few tips that I've learned along the way from various places, people, and also from just sitting in on panels, when applicants have come to do the interviews. So I have them on my phone as usual, so I'll be looking down, and so just forgive me for that. Anyway, so my first tip on preparing for first of all, what are competency based interviews? So competency based interviews are usually when you go to interview, they ask you, tell us about a time when you did this and this and this. So they are not so much on the technical bits of the job, but they're more on the behavior and the character traits that you bring to the team as a person. So most agencies or most organizations or companies are actually using behavior questions more, because at the end of the day, you have to sort of gel together as a team and just learn the technical bits. So personally, some of the tips that I've learned along the way, number one is you must read up on the job description. Many of us, for example, if you're in a job hunting period, you can apply for so many jobs that you forget what the job descriptions actually say. So sometimes I can call you for a job and you're like, did I apply for that job? When did I apply for that job? I remember a time when I was looking for a job and I had made quite a number of applications that at some point even forget which was which. So it's very good for every job that you apply for to keep a job description, so that when you're shortlisted, you go back and read about the job description, because the job description will tell you what exactly you're applying for, what are the roles, what are the key competencies that they need, what are the key skills you should have, if there's anything to do with language. So it will help you prepare for your interview. Then number two, usually when you look at job adverts, they have like keywords that they've written down. So it's very important that when you look at your job description, also look out for the keywords. Sometimes they'll put keywords, for example, applying for like a job as a legal officer or as a lawyer at a law firm. They'll put things like drafting skills or negotiation, or they'll put a few keywords that you should have in your application. So always look out for those keywords. And tip number three is to use those keywords that have been put in the job description in your application, in your CV, because you're applying for a job assuming that, of course, you're qualified for this job, you have all the papers, you're not a fraud, everything is on point. So you must make sure that you use the keywords that they have written in the job description, in your CV, in your roles, in your achievements that you're writing, or maybe as some motivation that you're writing. You make sure that it is in your CV, but this usually should happen before you actually put in the application. So, but also when you go for the interview, try to remember what the keywords were, so that you use those keywords as you talk about, you're answering the questions. Because if you're going to an organization whose culture is all about integrity, things like ethics is important to them. So those are words that your employer wants to hear as you go through the interview. So remember the keywords and always use those keywords. And then the next is before you go for the interview, you must do the research, prepare. You have the JD in your hands, you've known the keywords. Now you must actually do the reading. You must remember from your CV what were the roles you did before, try to look through some incidences that came to you in your previous job and how you handled them. Try to always have that in mind, because usually if they're going to ask you competency-based questions, they'll want to see previous experience, things you've done in the past. So it's very important that you actually have those experiences at the back of your mind, so that you're quick as they ask the questions. And also, when you're answering competency-based questions, there is what they call the STAR, S-T-A-R approach. The STAR approach is, you start with the situation, you go to the task, the act, and most importantly, the result. What employers want to see is the result that came out of your action. So STAR starts with the situation. When you're answering a competency-based question, let's say, for example, they ask you, tell us about a time in your previous work your previous work experience where you had to deal with a difficult manager or a difficult colleague or conflict. So you have to start with a situation. What was the situation about? For example, in my previous workplace, I had a very difficult manager, and you have to talk about how did that person become difficult. You talk about the situation. For example, I wrote a report, and he or she thought that I was late, yet maybe I submitted on time, or because it will actually, let me give you an example. For example, sorry, I'm rambling, but for example, you sent your report for review to your supervisor with a clear deadline, but your supervisor was about to miss the deadline, and you wrote an email to remind her or him about the deadline. However, he or she misinterpreted your email and took it as an act of insubordination. That is the situation. Okay, so then you go to the task. So what did the task you already explained was for her to review the report. Then the action, what did you do as in that situation? So you say you went and explained to her or him that was not your intent, but nevertheless she was very mean and very rude, that you had to escalate it to her manager, and you took it up with her supervisor. Then what was the result? The result was that maybe you had a mediation, and she apologized, and she realized you were only doing your job because you are very efficient. And as a result, the report was submitted on time. Therefore, the organization didn't lose any money. So at the end of the day, whenever you're answering such competency-based questions, you always must show the situation that you're talking about, the task, what did you do in that situation, what was the action, but most importantly, what was the result. And please, the result should always be a positive result. I remember sometime when we were doing interviews with a few of my friends, and we were all fresh from university and job hunting. So one of our colleagues went and they asked her, tell us about a time when you had to work under pressure. And then she goes like, I don't like to work under pressure. So she explained, and the result that she explained was negative, because in the end she abandoned the work. She said she abandoned the work because she felt too pressured, and she didn't submit on time. And that's not a result that your employer wants to hear. As an employer, when people are hiring you, they want positive results. They want to see that you bring to their team something, you bring to the team an A game. So avoid giving negative results. Always prepare to give positive results. That means you should also do your research. What are some of the key common questions that usually come in most interviews? We all know there'll always be a question, tell us about yourself sometimes, or why do you think you're the best candidate for this job? And whenever you're talking about in an interview, especially for women, I know that in most interviews that I've been, even myself, there's a tendency for us to use the we. Yet it's you who's under the interview. So we should try to use the word I. I did this. I and the team. I. Because at the end of the day, you want to show what your role in that team was. Yes, teamwork is a good thing, but at the end of the day, you also want to show what you contribute to the team, but that you just didn't sit there and was, dead weight, but yet you carried your weight to involved in the team. So always try to use the I. Is it conjunction? I pronoun? I don't know. But yeah, I. Yes. And then also when you're answering the questions, it should be very specific. The example that you give should be specific. I know that all of us at some point we start to ramble on, but what I usually do if I'm preparing for an interview is I go in the mirror and I try to talk to myself. And because I ramble easily as a person, like I can just, and I talk pretty fast, so I know that sometimes I can chew my words. So you have to practice breathe in, breathe out, like, you know, go in the mirror and do your practice. Don't be ashamed to ask a friend to just ask you a question and, you know, hear you answer it and they give feedback. Feedback is always very important. I mean, for example, when I was doing my interviews, I had to ask my mom that, you know what, because it was a Skype interview, so it said my mom she had to call me on Skype and we practiced, and she was like, oh my god, you're talking so fast, I can't hear very well, can you go slow, breathe in, breathe out, like, you know, you sound tense. So it's very important for you to actually have like a simulation exercise with a friend, a colleague, or someone you trust, and someone whose feedback, you know, you will respect, you know, because it's very, very important for you to practice before the actual interview. And also when you're giving your examples, we say be specific. And also there's a tendency when they ask you, for example, give us a time, let's say when you showed leadership skills, desist from giving examples that are outside work. You know, for example, you may give, oh, when I was at university or at my church, or no. Your employer is not interested in things that you do at church or, you know, at university. He or she wants to know in your former workplace or in your past experience as at work, what did you do, what was the leadership, what leadership skills did you exhibit. So your examples should be confined to your work time, not to things beyond work, because then your employer clearly is not that interested in things that you did in your volunteer work, you know, unless that's the role that you're actually applying for. But if it's like a corporate role and you're going to talk about you know, unless you're talking about hobbies, but I would advise against giving examples that are outside your work role. Try to maintain examples within your work role. And also another I know I've been using the word also. That's another thing to avoid in the interviews. Try to break the monotony. Don't use the same words over and over again. You might look at the interview as if you're telling a story, you know, so let be cohesive, let it flow. Don't use the same words. And also when I was, you know, try to be yeah, the English word has gone, but yeah, try to use as many diverse words as possible to keep the panel also entertained, not entertained but interested in what you're saying, because at some point you switch off. Like I've been in interviews before and a candidate is speaking and my head is gone because I'm like, okay, like you're rambling then. So try to always captivate the panel by being specific, being concise, and being organized. Situation, task, action, and result. And lastly, you know, there's always at the end of the interview, whenever they ask, whenever the panel asks, do you have any question for the panel? I think that is an opportunity for you to sort of capture any lost momentum that you may have had during the interview, because there's questions that you're asked, and as you're answering, you know, like this one I have not answered at all. But at the end of the interview, when the panel asks you, do you have a question for us, and if you remember what you didn't answer well, this is a time for you to wrap it up in a very nice way. You know, it's a time for you to show your passion for the role, your commitment to growth and development and things like that. So you can use that opportunity for you to actually show and the panel that you're still very interested, you're still a great candidate that they should choose for this role. And also I think it's not nice for you to simply say, oh no, I have no question for the panel, because you should remember you're competing. You know, you want to show them that I'm interested in this role and I also have something I bring to the table. So I would advise to ask questions like what is the job, what is the culture of the company or the organization, You could ask questions like, what does a typical work week look like for a person in my role? Or you could ask the person, them, like, for example, what has been the success rate of past previous employees who have occupied, or carried out this role you're applying for, interviewing for. Or you could even turn it around and ask them, why did they apply to work with the company? So that you sort of build. You have to be memorable, because if we're competing, let's say for a job with 6 people, remember, you want to be that candidate that the panel says, there was that girl, like she had presence, she had this. So it's beyond just your skills. Remember, it's the presentation, it's how you wrap up, and also it's how you answer the competency based questions. Remember, the magic is in the situation, task, the action, and the result. You have to be very, very concise, very specific, and you must hit the nail on the head. So yes, thank you so much for watching. Wish you all the best. For those of you who are looking for jobs, those of you who are interviewing, those of you who have finished campus and you have just put in your first applications, congratulations on that. I know the process, been down that road, I know it so well, but you are more than a conqueror. You will excel. You are excellent. So go for it. Congratulations. And I look forward to hearing testimonies about, jobs, people who have received new jobs and who have aced their interviews. So go out and shine. Subscribe, share, like,